Embrace of the Blue Goddess, a 2C-E and DMT trip report by Styrofoam Jones, posted to earwid.org, September 27, 2011. My friend, who we'll call D, and I were spending the day together. I'd just gotten a shipment of 2C-E from an online vendor, and the two of us were already tripping fairly hard on that. But we were feeling great, and thought some DMT might mix really well. Just as a heads up, I will not be talking much, if at all, about the effects of the 2C-E by itself in this report. The DMT breakthrough described below is easily my most profound and life-changing psychedelic experience to date, and as a result, the 2C-E trip seemed rather dwarfed and mundane in comparison, so I don't really remember many of the specifics of it. I only mention it because it was a fairly high dose of 2C-E, and it most certainly played into what I experienced during the DMT breakthrough, at least somewhat. But for the most part, this is a DMT trip report. I can tell you that the DMT session took place during the 2C-E's peak, 3 to 5 hours after ingesting a 15 to 20 milligram dose, and roughly an hour after snorting a couple of 2 to 5 milligram bumps. Anyway, D had already smoked some of the DMT, broken through, and come back with a rave review, so I was up next. We usually liked to play music whenever we took DMT, as it always seemed to make the whole experience flow much more smoothly as well as drown out any external distractions. Not to mention that music just sounds amazing in hyperspace. D recommended a fun techno song that he had just tripped along to. I believe it was Face to Face by Future Trance, so I figured I'd give it a shot. From this point on, I will be writing in present tense, as that is my preferred writing style. I'm feeling anxious, and after 10 to 20 minutes of psyching myself up, I put my earphones in. I lean back against the mountain of pillows we had set up to prop ourselves up along the journey, and inhale the first hit. As I hold the hit in, I gaze at the TV screen in front of me, at the Adventure Time marathon that D is watching, hoping to catch some final, whimsical frames of the show before the drug hits, to ensure good vibes and a pleasant trip. I hold the hit in for as long as I can. My heart begins to beat slightly harder and faster, and I know there's no turning back now. After exhaling, I take a few cycles of deep breath to ready myself for the next hit. My body begins to feel light and airy, as if it's turning to smoke, and a faint red orb with bluish-black tendrils sprouting and twisting from it appears in the very centre of my vision. I've not yet reached the point of overwhelming euphoria that I've come to know and love from DMT. Instead, my anxiety seems to have doubled. But I've broken through on DMT once before, so I know that this is just how it goes. Pre-flight anxiety, my friend calls it. So, I keep my cool and press onwards. As I hold the second hit, a sleek, wet, hyper-smooth feeling falls over the world. A feeling that I've noticed with all of my DMT experiences. I think it's partly to do with the smell of the smoke, which is kind of synthetic and plasticky, but not unpleasant. I think that once the smell gets in the air, it kind of colours the experience. Synesthesia, I suppose. The plasticky smell makes me and the world feel smooth and shiny and malleable, just like plastic. It's nice. A massive shift in consciousness begins to settle in, and what happens around this point is what I can only describe as the world unfolding. Objects begin to loosen and unhinge, breathe and dissolve, no longer held together by the physical limitations of reality. As this happens, a beautiful, utterly alien dimension seeps in from all angles to take the place of matter no longer there. A connectedness begins to fall over everything, like a strange energy matrix that hovers just outside of normal perception. I begin to feel a strong sense of belonging to the universe now, like the mental barriers that once separated myself from everything around me are beginning to weaken and crumble. Sound starts to vibrate off of itself, shaking the air and creating a steady, visible hum throughout the atmosphere. Things start to become impossibly angled. What was once known as the other side of the room is now no longer. Everything exists on a single plane. The music, myself, my surroundings, everything. It reminds me of one of those paper dragon optical illusions, where the face looks three-dimensional from the front, but the more extreme the view angle, the closer I get to realizing it's just a flat, craftily folded piece of paper. Smoking DMT is kind of like taking an impossible step away from reality, and altering my viewpoint in such a way that reveals the 3D illusion of the world. This brings about an odd kind of revelation, as my brain tends to react just as it would to something like the paper dragon. I can't believe I've been fooled this entire time. It's just an illusion. The body high intensifies and I'm starting to feel incredibly strange and hollow. Every breath feels like it reverberates through my entire being, ricocheting through my empty shell of a body before coming back out. It's getting harder to think and focus now, and the pipe in my hand is becoming more and more alien to me by the second. I'm beginning to lose grasp of its function, its relation to me, and I know that I have to work fast and get at least one more hit in. I inhale again and make the hit as large as I possibly can. As I hold the hit, I watch gorgeous, intricate geometric patterns emerge and sharpen all over the room, flowing and weaving along the matrix that connects us all. My vision takes on a bluish-green hue, and its peripherals begin to bend, as if I'm now seeing the world through a camera equipped with a cyan-tinted fisheye lens. I exhale and catch my breath. My heart is going faster than I've ever felt it go before. I'm sure I'm just hallucinating at this point. Simultaneous euphoria and anxiety well up inside of me. I feel a few brief moments of panic, but I stuff them away and embrace the experience in its entirety. I decide to try and squeeze in one last hit. With every bit of focus that I can muster, I figure out how to work the strange device in my hands, the pipe, and I take one small final inhalation. The DMT hits me full force as soon as I take the hit, and I let the smoke go almost instantly while falling back against the pillows behind me. My heartbeat is a steady hum at this point, a constant vibration in my chest. The bodily sensations are no longer light and misty, but oddly rigid and angular. It's as if I can feel my being conforming to the endless geometric patterns shifting before me. Not quite completely detached from reality at this point, I look down at my chest to investigate the humming sensation. As I do so, I watch my heart burst from my chest and shoot forwards at an impossible speed. It reaches the wall and somehow just keeps rocketing off into the distance. I see my arms flail around like wet noodles before me, as if I have no skeleton at all. My thoughts race to the point of being nothing but a frantic, jumbled, incomprehensible mishmash of words and memories and commands. It's like somebody had stuck an immersion blender in my ear, continued to puree the contents of my head, until I couldn't possibly tell what was going on inside of it. This effect continues to build before finally reaching a crescendo, a place where all thoughts merge, a kind of hectic, fast-paced trance. I can no longer keep my eyes open, and I sink even further back into the pillows as they close. The frantic jumbling of my brain ceases, just enough to allow some modicum of coherent thought, but not enough to keep my brain from buzzing like an angry beehive for the duration of the trip. There is a brief moment of blackness and a fierce hurtling sensation takes hold, a bit like being shot from a cannon. A purple glow appears off in the distance, small at first, but growing larger by the second, until I find myself completely engulfed in a tunnel of purple and black designs that look akin to an odd mix of ancient Egyptian or Mayan art, and something completely and utterly alien and other-dimensional. I'm reminded of the walls of ancient Egyptian tombs. My consciousness flies through this strange tunnel for a few brief, uninterrupted moments, before two figures appear off in the distance, one on either side. They're bluish-purple, just barely distinguishable from the designs on the walls in terms of appearance. They're both kneeling on one knee, yet still approaching rapidly, just sliding along the floor. Their eyes are closed, and each one holds some kind of container above the bent heads, as if offering something to a higher power. In retrospect, this was all very odd and unexpected to me. I'd broken through on DMT once before, and the experience was very bright and positive. I was engulfed by the warmest, most beautiful shades of yellow and green, and the majority of that trip was spent riding waves of colour, in complete euphoric bliss, while all kinds of pristine, oracle-esque shapes and figures presented themselves among incredibly intricate geometric patterns. Or, at least, that's all I remember from it. It was intense, astonishing, and mind-blowing. I don't think a DMT trip can come in any other flavour. But there was a simplicity to it that was already missing from this trip. Things this time around had started off with a somewhat dark tone, and an ominous, powerful, almost shamanistic feel. I began to feel a little frightened, at least as frightened as one can feel in the mind-numbingly frantic throes of a DMT breakthrough. The two figures on their knees continue their advance. I get this overwhelming feeling that I may be experiencing death itself. A slight but deep sense of dread surfaces for a moment, before being washed away by the trance. The figures pass by me rapidly, and as they pass, everything goes black. It was as if the speed of their passing had blown out the world like a candle. After this, a large, purple, shamanistic face full of lined patterns similar to those on the surface of a microchip presents itself for a brief moment in the center of my vision, before quickly fading away, leaving me completely alone in darkness. This is when a feeling grips me, like being hurled into a world of static and dissolving amongst it, integrating with it, and then nothing. My memory holds but a fleeting frame or two of what came next, which wasn't much at all. I was nothing more than particles and static among leagues of countless other particles and bits of static, stretched upon an endless, velvety black pane, forever in size, forever in time. And then, as quickly as the darkness had engulfed me, it recedes with an explosion of colour. Familiar colours and colours I had never seen before. Colours that I'm not even sure are possible. Ones that I can't even begin to remember. It's like one of those flashing, obnoxious, seizure-inducing web pages, only amazing and euphoric. I feel like I'm materialising like a swarm of lost atoms. My atoms have finally found their way home after being gone for centuries. I am myself, yet somehow outside of myself, simultaneously witnessing and experiencing this reassembly. Bone, then nervous system, then organs, flesh, and finally soul. A soul that floods with relief as I'm bombarded from all sides with pure, indescribable bliss. Like every single cell of my body, every last fibre of every piece of what makes me alive was having the greatest orgasm known to man. My racing mind tries to grasp a word from its feeble human vocabulary. Something, anything that could possibly even come close to describing this moment. Jesus, hallelujah. A feeling inexperienced, so utterly, viscerally spiritual that the only words my mind could connect it with were Jesus and hallelujah. And this is coming from a bitter, lifelong atheist. The flashing colours fade, giving way to a beautiful pink sky. I'm flying over amazing architecture with designs similar to those on the tunnel walls from before, like the ancient Egyptian and Mayan ruins clashing with Dr. Manhattan's glass castle on Mars. I notice a presence behind me. I can't see it, but I feel it. It's blue and female and wonderful. Holding on to me from behind, she is the force that keeps me afloat over this beautiful new world. She speaks to me without words. She tells me everything is okay, that I'm not actually dead. With her very presence comes more mind-blowing euphoria. I feel as if my soul is being massaged by God himself. The feeling that something incredibly enlightening, that some kind of powerful secret lies with this presence is fairly overwhelming, I must say, and I am immensely humbled. She is a grand celestial mother and guardian, magnificent and all-knowing, and I am not worthy of her care or comfort, but she gives it to me anyways, as if this is her very purpose. I try to learn from her, ask her something, but the harder I try to think and reason and grasp at petty words, the more my head spins and the more intense the entire situation becomes, leaving my train of thought in ruins. I know this is something I can't question, something I just have to let happen. I fly with her for what feels like an eternity, but at the same time, not nearly enough. As we travel through the sky and over the beautiful buildings and scenery, she communicates with me wordlessly, in a way that seems very alien, but at the same time very right, like the long-lost but never quite forgotten language of all that is conscious. I would like to call her expressions a song of sorts, but they were more like a pseudo-vocal energy dance, or something to that effect. I feel all of my troubles melt away amidst her caring embrace. Every last bit of doubt and depression and anxiety gone. This is the closest thing to death and rebirth that I have ever felt, or believe I ever will feel. This was death and rebirth, in fact. I feel the trancey, dumbfounding grip of the breakthrough loosening, and I gradually begin to feel the presence slipping away, the song fading, and myself, my awareness of the world around me, starting to return. The effects of the drug are still strongly present as I open my eyes. the world is still in its glorious unfolded form. I look down at my body, and I can see glowing, pulsing veins and waves of light dancing beneath my skin. This is an effect that I have always gotten on the come down of DMT. I've always entertained the notion that this was some kind of visual spirit or spirit energy coursing through me. I feel amazing, like I've just emerged from the most vivid, wonderful, life-changing dream. I close my eyes again and watch light, geometric patterns dance around me. When they fade, I get up and just rub my body all over, feeling frisky and awesome and full of life. Like I've just had my spirit brought back to the manufacturer and completely refurbished. The intense positivity of the DMT trip pushed the remainder of the 2C-E trip in a perfect direction, and Dee and I spent the rest of the day just enjoying life, walking in the rain, listening to good music, and doing childish, silly things. Now I have a few thoughts on this trip report. I think it's really fascinating, because obviously when I stumbled upon it I was like, ooh, this is interesting, a mixture between 2C-E and DMT. Although the guy goes on to say that he's actually describing a pure DMT trip, which in a sense he is, obviously. There's many commonalities in this trip between many of the other DMT trips that I've shared on the channel, but it must be said that I do believe if he was to just purely take the DMT without the 2C-E, his experience would have been much different. Maybe he wouldn't have met this blue goddess type entity without the 2C-E acting as a catalyst for forming this experience. I really do think the 2C-E had a massive effect on the whole journey, even though he couldn't really describe the 2C-E in its full effects. Because what's interesting about the 2C-E compounds, 2C-E family, 2C-B, 2C-E, 2C-I, 2C's whatever, all the alphabets, they're quite hard they're quite hard to describe in full extreme detail. At least I find it quite hard to describe my 2C-B experiences, because they can often be quite subtle for other people. They can be very profound, and I've known people to describe themselves as having mystical sort of LSD type transcendent mystical experiences on 2C-B. But I think for many people the experience is quite a subtle psychedelic feeling. But what must be said is that when you do combine psychedelics, it can create a completely different experience to just taking one by itself. Interestingly, the other week I combined 2C-B and mushrooms, and it felt like I was on a completely different chemical. The synergy between them was extremely fascinating. I had sort of the rush of 2C-B, so it gives me a massive recreational feeling. It's probably the most enjoyable psychedelic for me. It's one I've had the most fun on and can just enjoy with the boys, having a good time, connecting, just having a laugh really. It's if you don't overdo it, obviously don't be taking loads of this stuff. And let me also stress for the umpteenth time that I don't personally recommend doing any of this stuff. I just like to comment on it and talk about other people's experiences, and if you are going to do it, please remember to be safe and always start low and just be careful. But yeah, getting back to it, the other week I very carefully combined. I don't believe I knew what the dose of 2C-B was. It was just a little Mario mushroom pill. I can't honestly say what the dose was. It's usually in a dose of 18 to like 22 milligrams, these type of pills that you discover out in the wilderness. So I can't exactly say what the dose was, but I knew exactly what dose of cubensis mushrooms I had. I had 0.75 grams of cubensis. I didn't have a full G, because I thought, I've never actually done this before. It would be safer to just take less than a gram, because I don't know what the synergistic effects will be for me. Obviously, I looked it up massively. I looked up on Reddit, other forums, and just asked people that I knew that had experimented with this combination. So I just wanted to play it safe, as you should, I believe. And I had a beautifully profound, introspective, but also fun trip. It made me confront a lot of the health problems that I experience. I'm actually quite a healthy person. I really do take care of myself, other than, anyone who knows me through the channel, knows me in real life, knows that I have quite a problem with ketamine that I'm really tried to just knock on the head and focus in on honing more holistic, healthy processes into my body. I've been taking loads of supplements, exercising again, training my mind, just really trying to recover from the damage I've done to my mind, body and soul through the abuse of this drug. And when I took the combination of those two psychedelics, one of the most revelatory things that I took away from that experience was I honed in on the areas of my body that have been affected by the ket abuse, specifically my gallbladder, my stomach, my kidneys, my brain, because it definitely short-circuited a lot of my short-term memory and ability to focus. And with ketamine as well, as a lot of pleasure-producing substances do, they produce dopamine, and if you're constantly fixing yourself with high amounts of dopamine, it can really restrict your enjoyment of very normal things like just going for a walk, concentrating on a film or a book. It really has inhibited aspects of my life that I loved and still love, but don't love as much as I should because of the abuse that I've given to my brain and body because of this drug. And that synergistic effect of the 2CB and the mushrooms allowed me to hone in and really become aware of that. Because obviously in my normal egoic state, where I suffer with sort of addiction and cravings, it allowed me to hone in and really just hammer home that I need to get better. I need to get better. I want to get better now, because I always needed to get better, but now I want to get better, and now I'm taking pleasure in getting better. There's a beauty in the process of healing, isn't there? It's so if you turn it into something enjoyable. But getting back to the report, like for me, I couldn't really describe the 2CB element of the experience other than I had some 2CB visuals and the energetic feeling and the sort of hilarity of it. The shrooms seemed to have the more dominant effect, even though it was 0.75 Gs. But since it was a mixture of psychedelics, it really did amplify the psychedelic headspace I was in. So like I'm saying with this report, even though we didn't explicitly talk about the 2CE quality of the experience, it definitely had a profound effect on the whole DMT breakthrough. It coloured his DMT breakthrough and gave it a different flavour than it would be without. So that's why it was a really interesting experience. I know some people are like, well, I wanted to hear about the 2CE part of it, but actually, if you take the trip report on a whole, it actually was a great unique experience that was facilitated by the cherry on top, which was the 2CE. So I hope you guys found that really interesting. I like exploring these combination reports, and it's great to see that this person went through a really quite enlightening journey. As he said, he was a sort of bitter atheist most of his life, and then he's now been blessed with this beautiful insight into the sort of mystical, metaphysical quality to life, and the fact that that's made him a happier person is a great thing, regardless of what you believe. Like I'm so happy that people, I always say this all the time, as long as you're happy with your own beliefs, they drive you, you're motivated by them, and you love exploring them, that's the best thing, isn't it? This guy seemed like his bitter atheistic worldview was not making him happy. So regardless of whether you believe in religion or mysticality or mysticism, I don't fucking know, either one of them, bro. But yeah, I'm very glad for this person to have realised something within himself that was always there, his desire for heightened states of being and sort of a religious experience. Again, not everybody needs this, just as long as you're happy. If there's something missing within you, then go seek it. If there's something missing within you, it's not usually out there, it's within. Go within, go deep. That's why psychedelics are so beautiful, because they put you inward. Like literally why you're called a psychonaut. You're going within your own psyche, exploring it, finding out things about yourself, doing shadow work. Really is absolutely beautiful. Very happy for this person, and yep, let me know if there's any sort of combos that you'd like me to cover in the future. Let me know in the comments section, and I'll be sure to tally them all up and make that one of the next reports that I cover in the next few weeks or so. Anyway, guys, thank you for listening, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out my Patreon if you'd like to support me directly. Any donations, get on my Discord. The links are always in the description box. And yeah, for all my patrons as well and YouTube members, I'd like to start featuring more exclusive content for you guys because I really appreciate your support. I'm sorry that I don't put out more on there, and so that makes me appreciate you guys even more, that you just want to directly support me. That's awesome. And for anyone who just wants to listen to the content and keep watching and commenting, that's absolutely brilliant. I appreciate you guys so much. I fucking love doing this, and I fucking love you lot quite a lot, I must say, lad. Yep, see you on the other side, and peace out.